halftime of charity basketball games set up for our college funds in little country gymnasiums. Such places became secular sanctuaries to me. The sweet syncopation of balls bouncing against hardwood during a shoot-around was as competitive, as alluring as that Rich versus Roach album of battling drummers I listened to once I grew up and let my love of Ella Fitzgerald lead me to other LPs. Gymnasium. It was the first big word I ever learned. It made masculinity musical to my little ears. I went around saying it softly to myself over and over, proud that I was able to pronounce it, loving how pretty it sounded in my mouth. Gymnasium. A man's name was in there. C was in there, too. The very sound of I knew to say when I really liked something, when it tasted good, when I wanted to taste it again. A gymnasium was also the place where my stern father felt secure enough to show me some tenderness. He had been an All-American basketball player at the State Southern Baptist Institute of Higher Learning, Mississippi College. Drafted by the New York Knicks in 1956 after my mother had just given birth to me, he had returned home from Manhattan at her behest. A Southern belle through and through, she could not see herself managing to survive in the vertical hustle and bustle of a northern urban high-rise with a squalling newborn to care for. She told my father he had a choice. Either he could play for the Knicks and live alone or come home to her and his child and make a more horizontal life in Mississippi, where there were lawns, honey, and languor was an assiduously honed attribute. At least that's what his older sister, my Aunt Gladys, corpulent, overly rouged, and cautious of tongue, told me a couple of years after my parents' deaths. I, newly 9, was sitting on the floor next to her chair during a weekend birthday visit at her house in Van Winkle, Mississippi. I busied myself reading her collection of movie magazines. Such a shame, too, such a shame. Your daddy always wanted to play ball against number 14 Bob Cousy, she said, mentioning the great Boston Celtic player, as she pushed back in her chair and I perused Dorothy Manner's syndicated column in Modern Screen for any mention of George Hamilton or Susan Oliver. I'd just seen the two starring in Your Cheatin' Heart at a Saturday matinee back at the Town Theater in Forest, and fallen madly, confusingly, in love with both of them. Your mama and daddy could fight with the best of 'em, but they were devoted to each other ever since second grade in Harperville, where we all grew up as best we could, Aunt Gladys said, kicking off her waitressing shoes. I stared at her corn pads. I pouted at the very mention of my dead parents and pretended I could not smell her feet. Never let nobody tell you different. Not even me, she said. Sometimes I wonder, though, what would have become of 'em if they had lived a little longer. Love's a funny thing. She yawned, drifting toward sleep. So funny I forgot to laugh. My father succumbed to my mother's challenge of a more grown-up, pussy-yearning kind of loneliness and returned home to Mississippi from New York City. He got a job coaching basketball at a high school in a friendly hick-filled hamlet in the middle of the state called Pelahatchie. Almost immediately, legendarily, he took the 8-member team to the state championship. I've often wondered if the look of sad disdain he always delivered my way was the professional remorse of which my very presence reminded him. I am certain this was his recurring, silent plaint. If only she had not been pregnant with you. My father and I were like two magnets with their identical poles pressing against each other. It is my most vivid memory of him, that magnetic force field that brought us always to the brink of closeness. As we got to know each other in the first 7 years of my life, the last 7 years of his, I came to realize it was less a look of disdain than one of perplexed fear that flitted across his face whenever I came into view. What kind of creature is this? This is a part of me? Flesh of my flesh? Why don't you want to go out and play with the rest of the boys? Shit, go shoot some hoops, son. Get into some trouble. Why do you want to sit inside laughing with the women all the time? My father was a little over 6 feet tall. His flat top set off the chiseled features of his face. His eyes were the color of Kentucky bourbon, and his ears were a tad too big. Swarthy and smooth skin, he appeared to have a bit of Native American heritage hidden away somewhere. Soon after he arrived at the small high school, he decided to change the team's name from the Demons to the Chiefs in accordance with Pelahatchie's own Native American heritage. You'll be the only little demon left around here, he had told me, shaking his head as he watched me run up and down the old gymnasium, perhaps prance is a better word, that summer day right before school started when he took his buckets of red, blue, white, and yellow paint in there to get rid of the